Hi everyone, I'm Judge James, and I wanted to get back in front of the camera after another, month and a half away for a Shadowdark and Me video here. 2 months into this experience so far. I've been wanting to do a follow-up from my last two Shadowdark videos for a few weeks now, and I'm finally getting around to it. So we still don't have a lot of content coming to the channel right now. Things have been kind of quiet, been very busy. Uh, Judge Evie has been doing a lot of theater work still. So I think she was on a show. The last time I was doing a video, she was in a show, which kind of held us up on our weekends. And then she just wrapped a show this week as well. So it's just me. I hope everyone's okay with that. And I'm here talking about something that's become like one of my new favorite things, which is still Shadowdark. And my discussion of this game a couple months ago was mid Kickstarter, and I know a lot of people, when a Kickstarter launches, they get real excited for the Kickstarter, and they're engaged, and they're ready, and they're talking about it, and they're posting about it, and everyone's reviewing it, and there's a lot of feedback that's just being blasted on the internet. And Shadowdark was special because there was just such great marketing around it, so many notables that were discussing it. Like me, I'm so notable. But when the Kickstarter is over, sometimes things go they settle a bit and things go quiet, especially if you're waiting for a game to come out in full. The great thing about Shadowdark has been that the game is in full now. It's full release, so long as you were a backer on the Kickstarter, and you can be a late backer. There is a link below. It's not going to be a link below. There will be a link, because if you look down, there's a link there to jump in and back. Do a late backing of Shadowdark if you want to get your hands on the PDFs. So that's what's been one of those great things that kind of reminds me of how Pinnacle does their Kickstarters for Savage Worlds games. Is like not long after you've give your money to Kickstarter, you're getting a copy of the game. But no matter. So there people are talking about it. I think there's still some discussion about it. I exist in Discord, and I'm on the Shadowdark Discord server, so I see the chatter over there. But I wanted to give a status report of how Shadowdark is going in our household. It's been 2 months since the Kickstarter, and 2 months exactly since my first game, which was, well, not exactly, a couple days over that. So it was, I think, March 5th was the first session I ran of the game. So it's May 7th, and as of today, I've done 2 one-shots of Shadowdark. The very first one being the adventure in the back of the Game Master Guide. There is a oh crap, I don't have anything memorized, right? There was the Lost Citadel of the Scarlet Minotaur that's in the back of the Game Master Quick Start Guide, and then I ran the very first part of Khazad Moor, which is a adventure you can get online on Drive Through RPG, which I guess I should make a note for myself to post that to. More. It's a really good adventure. I really enjoyed it. I want to get back to it and do more of it. For a 3-hour session, it's hard to do anything in that adventure that's of note. It's huge. It's sprawling. It's gorgeous. So I have to get back over there. But since those 2 online games, we are 7 sessions into an in-person, full-fledged Friday event here in the Philadelphia area. Shadowdark Fridays, or Shadow Fridays, however the kids are calling it, because it's the gaming group that's kind of evolved from me and my son Cooper trying to gather some people together. It has exploded, and it has just been an amazing experience. And we look forward to it every week. There's a whole system about getting together where some parents will just drop their kids off with some snacks, and we have one parent, my friend Akash, he plays with us, which is great. I have such thanks to give Akash for the fact that he will sit at the table with us. He and I are the same age, and he helps me keep a crew of 12 or 13-year-olds and a 15-year-old sort of on somewhat control. I think I was in better control when I was that age, or at least not control. Control is a bad word, because the kids, they're good kids, but it takes the volume down a bit because I'm old and my ears hurt all the time. But it's been such a great experience, And I just wanted to get in front of everyone and say that after all of this play and with the release of the full PDFs for Shadowdark, how does the game stand up? And I'm going to crank up my Philly accent here for a second and just say, it's friggin' awesome. All right, this game is great. And I'm having such a great time. And since starting up the Shadowdark in March and getting involved in the game, and especially since the launch of our campaign and getting into our campaign fully, there's actually been this level of like personal creativity that Shadowdark has sparked in me that hasn't been there in a couple years. And I've been playing a lot. I mean, anyone who watches this channel or has watched this channel when we put out regular content knows I do a lot of gaming. And when I was playing Dungeon Crawl Classics, at least at the high point of that during the pandemic when I was running it the most, my mission was to run as many of those modules as possible because they're awesome. Each one that I ran, at least, with maybe a few exceptions where they were good but not awesome. Each one, getting to the end of them, and it was a thing about completion. Like for me, I love the experience of completing the modules and getting that personal fulfillment of being able to look back and say, wow, we collectively told that story, but I didn't write the stories. I maybe added to them, I embellished them, but they were still other people's stories that we shared. I enjoyed playing DCC in that way, very much like how I enjoy playing Savage Worlds Deadlands right now. We were taking a run through the 4 main plot point campaigns for Deadlands Reloaded. So, the Flood, The Last Sons, Stone in a Hard Place, and Good Intentions. And it's getting to the end of those. It's like a personal goal of mine to run those. It's about feeling that fulfillment at the end and telling and reading a story because I didn't write it. It's nothing like that with Shadowdark with me right now. It's, for me, it's not about the discovery as much as the creation of these new places, locations, and characters. We've got, and I do this old school, or not old school, crap school. My videos are crap school, but I'm going to show this anyway. I've had an Incarnate, what's it called, account for a couple years now. Let me make a note of that. I need to note, share Incarnate, in case you don't know what Incarnate is. Incarnate is an amazing piece of map software, and they aren't like paying me for this. It's not like I'm not paid for anything here. I'm not like marketing for money here. And this page isn't monetized. That's why when folks say they can't hear me very well, it's a free video, everyone. No one's getting paid here. But anyway, with Incarnate, I've got maps of the towns and a map of the area we call the Scraylands, and we populate it. We have these maps on the computer. So I have the computer right here, right? And we play right there. So we put these maps on the screen. We print some out. If the characters discover something new, we can edit the map. But we're messing around with the maps. I'm on maps. And I'm on miniatures. I was kind of away from painting. I would do these 30-day, 30 miniatures challenges occasionally to fill up my miniature pool. But I had just tons of minis unpainted. That's ended. So let me pull up some of my minis here. Like for instance, this is all of the player characters in a boat that I painted, a Reaper Bones boat. This is our whole team, our squad. I have a boat because we've done some aquatic adventures. So we have Linther the Goblin Thief. We have Jasmine the Human Priest. We have Joachim the Dwarf Fighter. We have Aaron the very chaotic, so chaotic I had to change the alignment to chaotic, Human Wizard. We have my son Cooper. He plays Ronaldo, the Elf Thief. And then in the back we have Akasha's character, Biff Dibble, the halfling fighter. So I just finished this boat this week. I'm quite proud of this boat. I just did the sails today, and not that they're like billowy or anything like that, but the game got me wanting to bring something new to the table each week, to bring out my Dwarven Forge and start playing with that more. This dragon. This is Barinthia, the swamp dragon. So there's a swamp dragon in the quick start guide, and we thought that's going to be one of the bosses in this adventure. And so I've I've made her. This is a Reaper Bones dragon, and this took for me. It took a couple weeks to mess with this. This is not a great painting job, but it's my painting job. And I've had this thing sitting on a shelf for how long, glued but unpainted. Actually, I'd painted it blue. I should make it more swampy. But I just have this desire now to just create and to build and to present stuff that that's that that's going to give my players a sense of wonder, but it's something that I've created. I'm writing the adventures myself. That's a thing for me. That's a big thing for me. I don't do that very often. I haven't done it very often. I haven't done it for years. Occasionally I'll add a little one here or there, but to do a whole campaign, I haven't done it. And I know what people are going to put in the comments, so I'm going to get you now, okay? You can explore all of the wonders of creativity with any role-playing game you want. It can be DCC, it can be Savage Worlds, it could be D&D 5th edition, it could be whatever. I have a whole shelf of your games. It doesn't matter what game you have. You can have this kind of creativity with any game. But here's the thing about Shadowdark. That's what did it for me. It matters to me with this game. All right. I was running a game yesterday for War of the Cyclops Con. I'm wearing my Pawn of the Spawn shirt from Spawn of the Cyclops Con from 2 years ago, and I was participating in War of the Cyclops Con yesterday, running some DCC Lankmar, and I was talking to my players, just asking about what's different with this, and I'm going to try to talk about some of it here, but I don't know if I'm going to do the game justice or do any of you justice, because like I said, this matters to me, but I don't 100% know why. It just works. And I haven't felt this creative since being a blogger in early 2015 or 2016. And it's different. Back then I was being creative. It was very outward. It was very outward to, I wanted to get more involved in the game world and the industry and meet people. It was like a life goal of mine to get something published. And that's kind of taken a bit of a back seat in recent years, but I still have that desire to create. And, but in the last couple of years, I've been in the back seat just along for a ride with published modules. And, experiencing all of these worlds very much like someone who's watching a movie, but more of a collaborative or a choose your own adventure movie, or a choose your own adventure story. And that's I often tweak published modules, sometimes a lot, usually to make them more gross, because gross is like a horror aspect I enjoy, but I don't often go so off the rails it's unrecognizable. There's something about doing these games and writing them yourself. It got me thinking about one of my biggest inspirations for tabletop role-playing games as a kid. When I was very young, it was all about the Ultima series by Richard Garriott and Origin. And so many of my early days as a gamer was spent as a young teen writer, probably a little older than Cooper, maybe 14 years old. Were inspired by Ultima 7 and Ultima Underworld. I remember my very first Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition campaign that I had put together myself took place with characters getting dumped out on a sea coast, very similar to what happens in Ultima Underworld 2. They had nothing with them; they just had to survive and experience this new land, and that came from the game. Origin's tagline was, if you remember, was "We create worlds." So now with Shadowdark, and along with the very amazing Shadowdark community, especially all of you on Discord, by my side, I'm creating worlds, or at least a little part of my own world in the Skraylands, which I will not be publishing or posting anywhere. This is just for me. Although I might put the maps occasionally as I update them. I put some of them on Instagram, but I don't think, again, I don't have a lot of Instagram followers. I'm not really hunting for followers, so it's all good. All right, so why? How is it doing this? I am going to try to emote some of this to you about why this feels different, because it does. it feels different playing Shadowdark to me than playing a lot of the other games I've played recently. With most of the RPGs I play, it's felt like collectively everyone at the table, virtual or in person, is playing that role-playing game together. We're all playing that game. So if I had to do a graph or a chart, which I'm not going to do, you have your players, you have your GM, and the game's in the middle. We're all telling this story. We're all playing the game, and that's fantastic. That's why we're there, right? But at my Shadowdark table, it feels like the character sheets, the rules, they're in the background. They're there to help if I need them. But since the rules are pretty light, I'm only grabbing what I need from that Shadowdark cloud occasionally, and then moving on. They're not in the way. I that was how I originally wrote this when I was kind of doing my notes for this video, is that I don't feel like Shadowdark gets in the way. But I felt I gave Shadowdark and Kelsey Dion, the author, it was a bit of a disservice, almost like, move your game aside. We're just going to tell a story. It's not like that. It's like the game is like in the background and it's ready to help, but tell your story the way you want to tell it. Explore the dungeon the way you want to explore it. Here's some rules for you to do it. And there's another game I feel strongly like this with, and that's Mothership, which is another game that I adore and discovered in recent years. And for me, I'm watching myself now in my mid 40s. Next week I'm in my mid 40s, or the end of this week, right? Because I'm turning 44 soon, and 44 is like your mid 40s, right? I'm having this return to simplicity. I want things simpler in my life. Except the fact that I play a lot of BattleTech now, and that's not simple, but it is awesome. So, could this be an OSR thing? I know that when I did this series called OS Rebellion a few years ago, where I was trying to talk about the OSR, because I had just discovered that there were other OSRians out there. It was like 2014, 2015, 2016 maybe, when I was talking about it the most from that perspective. And I remember in the mid 2000s having a desire to play games more simply, but I was taken up by the wave after wave of 3rd edition, 3.5, and then 4th, and then other games. And I always wanted to go back and try things a bit simpler, a bit more basic. I don't know. I don't like using that word because I don't think this is a basic game. But anyway, that desire, that longing to go back, or to not go back, to play something that's a bit simpler and smoother, lighter, more efficient. There we go. We can use some business terms, right? Get the MBA working in my ears here. A more efficient and effective game. Could it be a nostalgia thing? And some OSR folks have said that to me. Some of my friends have said that to me. I talked to about this on chats. Is like, I'm experiencing like nostalgia. I want to just go back and play something that's in my head already, and I just want to have that return to I don't want to say it's regression, but go back to a simpler era. And you know what? I don't think that's the case for everyone, especially at my table, because the average age of the kids over there is, if it's 19, it's only because I have another player in there that's my age, right? The young players between 13 and 15, they don't have nostalgia for any other game. They'll have nostalgia for Shadowdark, possibly, or probably, in the 2050s, when they're in their 40s looking back at what they were playing. So is it a nostalgia game? Sure. In the future, I think I'm going to look back and say, I really miss playing Shadowdark more. I need to play a game more like that. And that'll be a long time from now, because I'm going to have this game system for the rest of my life. But they just freaking love Shadowdark. The kids love it. I love it. Honestly, who cares about why we love it and enjoy it? And I am going to say there are, now that I'm this far into the game and 20 minutes into this video, I feel like I do owe you all at least a little peek into what I'm loving the most mechanically, because it's more than just the game's out of the way. It stays out of my business, and that's not the case. I'll say I do love one of the things I love. I'm not going to get into much detail here. It's just a fun thing at our table. How much the kids freak out when the torch is going to burn out. They spaz. They absolutely spaz. I'd say that they one of the cool things they remind about the need of the torch. The character's goblin Linther holds a torch, so they never forget that a torch is out there, right? This is I think a Pathfinder Deep Cuts mini for Linther the Goblin I'm using here. They never forget they need one, but they have all kinds of systems now to make sure that there's always a torch going, a backup torch at the ready, or a light spell if need be. The challenge of the light spell, though, is that oftentimes the spellcasters forget they have that, which is its own fun little quirk. They're always scrambling for the torch. But I love the torch mechanic and the importance of the torch. But torch aside, and besides all of this creativity that this game is sparking, mechanically, what's my favorite thing about this game 7 sessions in to a campaign that's now hit level 3? And I think I could say that when it comes to the characters, all of the thought put in by Kelsey Dion when it comes to giving each character class its own unique feel and niche, I love that. I really appreciated Kelsey's live online design of the Ranger. To see how much care was taken with when trying to build the Ranger and figure out, like, could it do 1d12 damage or not with a weapon? Why was that even a concern? And you think, and the concern was obviously doing that much damage to the weapon was the realm of the fighter. If you start letting other classes use every weapon, well, it takes away from the fighter their benefit of that class. You already are going to have the issue later on that a wizard will start to eclipse the fighter, which is how it was in the olden days of D&D, right? Up to, at some point, power word kill shows up, and that fighter's magic sword don't mean much. But even in the early days, that fighter needs to have something they do differently, and being able to use, I would say the fact that in our party, Joachim, the dwarf, has all these hit points and has a big shield and a D8 weapon. That's a great feature for that character. Kelsey goes into in that video. If you haven't watched the Ranger design video, I am gonna post a link to that below. Also, just so you can go back and watch that. It's long, but it's worthwhile to go through it. She goes into just how. It's not minutia. It's efficiency. It's about efficiency. It's about the way that every piece of a character, it doesn't need to be balanced, but it has to give that character a role. And looking back on the 4 classes and 4 ancestries that we were given to the start, I can see now, so many games in, it really does matter. In our game, we have an elf thief, goblin thief, dwarf fighter, halfling fighter, human wizard, and human priest. So take the wizard and the priest aside, and you have 2 doubles. Our elf thief and our goblin thief feel very different. Not just because their stats are different. The goblin thief has a higher charisma. The elf thief is all dexterity. The elf thief is a stealth assassin who's just focused on going into stealth mode, has a crossbow, and then firing out of stealth. The goblin thief, plays a bit different, is more charisma focused, and then has that benefit of can never be surprised for being a goblin. That makes those 2 characters feel different. The dwarf and the fighter have 2 very different fighting styles. Halfling fighter is a longbow specialist that stays at range. The dwarf fighter actually doesn't have that great of a base attack with his axe. He's a lot of hit points and is really beefy when it comes to armor class. But it means that those characters don't feel the same, and those players get to experience the characters differently, and they have their own personalities. So I really enjoy the care that was taken amongst those, even with the 2 spellcasting classes, the priest and the wizard. I'd have more details about the priest and the wizard, except for our our wizard. He leaves the game an hour early almost every week now. So I gotta talk to that kid, or maybe talk to the kid's parents. I don't know. Arvin, if you're watching this, I'm thinking about that. All right. So if you stay till 9:30, your parents let you stay till 9:30, you can do the carousing, in the game. Parents of Arvind, I promise, not in real life. There's no real life carousing with our teens in our game. Am I doing anything different? I thought another thing I wanted to talk about, in the waning minutes of this video, which I'm trying to keep short and sweet to 15 minutes, and we're now at 25. We just hit 25 minutes. I wanted to know anything I'm doing differently that's not in the rules, and there is. I don't use the always on initiative system. I know that was like a major feature discussed with the game, how it was different, that initiative is always on, everyone's taking their turns. I tried it in the very first game, and then I ran of Shadowdark of being very strict with initiative order and having it always active. I felt that it stifled some of the back and forth across the table. So I instead did a house rule where I did combat initiative and exploration initiative. But then when the party wanted to discuss, I took them out of initiative and I put them back when they were back on the move again. I've done away with that. For a couple of reasons. I still feel it with teens. It does stifle them a bit in, when it comes to someone to have their turn has to wait, and while there can be back and forth dialogue, trying to orchestrate always on initiative with 12 and 13-year-olds is really hard. So I stopped. I ended up just going right to how I run any other game typically, where is an initiative system, which we roll it for combat, and that's about it. So I do need to do a cover-to-cover read of the whole core book at some point. That'll probably wait until it comes out in print, just because I have a hard time reading things because of my old 40-plus-year-old eyes on an electronic screen. I probably need to get like an e-reader or something like that, but I don't have one. Maybe for my birthday I'll ask someone for it. But I have been going in and picking out pieces of the core rules and going back in and I'm pulling some monsters out, some items out, using the great charts and not charts, random tables. I love all the random tables. Someone had made a comment that there's a lot of random tables in the book. Thank you. I appreciate that. I like having, if I get stumped, especially if I'm writing something myself or I'm just winging it and just shooting from the hip as the player characters are exploring. I love that I can just kind of quick, what's a rumor I can throw at them? This just happened? Boom, I roll it. It's there. Or I ask them to roll it. Then they feel like they have some kind of agency. Even if they roll it and I think it's a terrible roll and I skip to something next to it, which I did last week. So that's my take. 2 months in, 9 sessions in, 1 campaign still in its early days. That's my take on Shadowdark, and I'm gonna probably get back to painting here in a few minutes. I'm running Shadowdark again this Friday, and then we have our own little con that we're doing here at my house with some friends coming to town for a weekend, 4 days of gaming. It's like Gen Con, but not in Philly, and with no traffic because it's just all at our house in the Dungeon Tavern here. I'll be running that Sunday a session that involves piracy and giant shark people. So that'll be fun. And I need to finish writing it. So I have the terrain done. It's all, I'll have that posted probably on Instagram and on some of the servers when I get it out there, because I'm using a lot of fish tank terrain for this. So it's going to look professional and in the best possible way. If you missed the Shadowdark Kickstarter, I'm going to put the link to that below with a couple other things. And like I said, it's not too late to go back it and to throw something in there. Just get the PDFs. The link will be below. Check it out, and I hope you at least give it a try. Try it, Try it. You'll like it, right? Was that Yo Gabba Gabba? Do the same thing, right? And if you don't like it, play something else, and then you could comment below whatever you want to comment, whatever kind of weird thing you want to say. So thank you so much for giving me a little bit of time on whenever you're watching this. It doesn't have to be Sunday evening where you are. And I hope you all have a good rest of your weekend and rest of your week and rest of 2023. And maybe I'll see you again soon. All right. Take care.